All right, so in the last chapter, unrest, um, Josh's clients are unrest. They're not happy. They're upset. They're angry. They're angry that they just found out their money's being used to take Peak to the top and they're not going to benefit anything from it. So you would be too, right? If you found that out that somehow the person that you're paying is using your money to do something else. Well, they're not bluffing. It doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like they're giving empty threats and saying that they're going to continue with the journey on Everest, you know, knowing that Peak is getting basically a free ride. So that's upsetting them. Peak's starting to feel like his situation is being threatened, like his summit attempt is being threatened. So this next section is called Blink. So what do you think it means? In the last chapter, he said, he thinks Josh is going to blink first, not the climbers, meaning he's under the impression that Josh is going to give in, not the clients. They're going to stand their ground and they're going to not continue with the summit to Everest as long as Peak is going. But we'll find out if that's what's going to happen. Hopefully not. But it kind of stinks for Peak that he's in that position. Blink. The next morning, I was dealing with another uncomfortable breakfast at a separate table from my team members when Josh and Thaddeus came into the tent. I thought they were going to make an announcement about the filming schedule or something, but instead, Josh said, "We've reached a decision." He took a sheet of paper out of his pocket and slowly unfolded it. B team, led by Passan, will consist of the following members. He read off the names. A team, which I'll lead, will be. Then he read off another list of names with one important omission. Someone got left out. My name. Before I could find my voice, the Texan spoke up, sounding almost as stunned, shocked as I felt. "Are you saying Peak isn't getting a summit shot?" "Did you hear me read off his name?" Josh asked tersely, shortly, briefly. "No," Texan said quietly. "It's a ploy. It's all a trick," I thought desperately. Otherwise, Josh would have told me about the decision before this brutal announcement. He was trying to get their sympathy, trying to get them to say, "Now, just hold on a minute, Josh. We didn't really mean for you to." It was brilliant. If they decided I should come, they couldn't grouse about it later. Meaning they couldn't complain about it later. I waited for those magic words, but they didn't come. Instead, Josh looked at me. "I'm sorry, Peak. I've been a jerk about this. They're right. This is their climb. They're paying the tab." I thought he was overplaying it and hoped he knew what he was doing. I looked at the Texan. Now was the time for him to say, "Oh, shucks. We were just having fun with you. Of course you can summit Everest with us." Instead, he said, "Well, that's settled then." "Wait a second," I said. "That's not fair. I worked just as hard as anyone here to get up to Camp 4. "Let it go, Peak," Josh said quietly. "I won't let it go." I almost knocked over my chair standing up. "You don't have a choice," Josh said, raising his voice. "It's all been arranged. Zopa's packing your gear right now. You and he and his Sherpas are heading to Kathmandu. The truck's waiting." I stared at him in disbelief. It wasn't a ploy. He'd blinked. He gave in. "I'm sorry it didn't work out," he continued. "Maybe we can try again next year. You're young. We'll get plenty of chances to get to the summit." "I don't believe this. I'll help you pack." "Forget it." I pushed past him and ran outside. By the time I got to my tent, my gear was already in the truck and ready to go. So it was all planned. Zopa, Yogi, and Yash were sitting in the bed waiting for me. The back of the pickup truck. That's what they call bed. I wiped away my frozen tears. "You should have told me." Zopa shook his head. "Better to learn the way you did. The only thing I've learned is that you and my father are liars." "We must leave," Zopa said calmly. "We have a long way to go before dark." I glared at him, expecting more, but it was clear the discussion, if you want to call it that, was over. The driver started the truck. As we pulled out of camp, Josh stepped out of the mess tent and waved at me. I returned the wave with a gesture of my own. He returned the insult by giving me his trademark grin. If Zopa hadn't grabbed my collar, I would have jumped out of the back of the truck and killed him with my bare hands. I could not believe how quickly it had all come to an end. I mean, I knew I might not have make it to the top of Everest, but I thought it would be due to weather, injury, or endurance, not some stupid business decision. Josh hadn't bothered to mention what I was supposed to do once I got back to Kathmandu. Wait for him, I suppose, or maybe I was being sent down to Chiang Mai. It didn't matter. As soon as I got to wherever I was going, I would call Mom and find out if things had cooled off enough for me to go back to New York. The only thing I knew for sure was that I was not going to have anything to do with Joshua Wood ever again. We bumped along the rough road for a couple of miles until we came to a roadblock manned by Chinese soldiers. They checked our papers, then thoroughly searched the truck. This is when I realized that Sanjo wasn't with us. I was so mad when I got booted out of the camp. I hadn't even thought about him. I had to wait to ask Zopa until we were back on the road. Where's Sanjo? He's waiting for us up ahead, Zopa said. It looked like Sanjo wasn't getting his shot at the summit either. I guess Captain Shek had made it too risky. Shamefully, this made me feel a little better. A couple miles later, the truck slowed down. I looked over at the top of the cab expecting to see Sanjo, but it was just a yak and a porter heading up to base camp. When we drew up next to them, the driver stopped. The porter was Gulu. He gave me a toothless smile. Then he and Zopa talked for a while, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. When they finished, Gulu waved and continued toward base camp. We drove down the road for another mile or so, then came to another stop. At this rate, it would take us a year to get to Kathmandu. Yogi and Yash hopped out of the truck and started unloading gear. What's going on? Team C, Zopa answered. What are you talking about? Instead of answering, Zopa pulled a crumpled piece of paper out of his pocket and handed it to me. Sorry about the dramatics, but we had to make it look good so Captain Shek would think you and Sanjo were gone and stop looking for him. I also had to appease my boneheaded clients, had to make them happy. It was the only way I could get you to the summit before your birthday. Zopa's idea. I told you he was cagey. He'll take you up to the ABC along a different route. He's under strict orders to keep you alive. If he doesn't, your mom will kill me. I hope you make it to the top. But if you don't, no worries. Josh. I read the note over twice, then looked up at Zopa. He was smiling. We will take a shortcut to ABC, he said. But we will have to move quickly before Captain Shek discovers our deceit, our lie. I wasn't sure if I was angry or happy with him and Josh. It had been a cruel trick. I understood why they had done it, but they should have trusted me to play a role. I could have pulled it off. And I was about to tell Zopa this when Sanjo came over the top of a small hill and waved. Aside from the rumpled porter clothes and the grass in his hair from Gulu's yak, he looked ready to climb. Wow, so Peak got played, but he got played for a good reason. Because remember earlier in other chapters, he had said he wasn't even a good liar. Like he couldn't lie. So can you imagine having to lie to a bunch of people? That was going to be hard for him. So maybe that's the reason why Josh decided to do it the way he did it, and Zopa decided to do it the way he did it. Well, he got played hard. Obviously, he's still getting his shot, so that's exciting. But I can only imagine being Peak. And you literally just got embarrassed in front of a bunch of people, quote unquote, kicked out. And then all of a sudden it's like, just kidding, you're still going. And here comes Sanjo. So I can even think about like what he felt not seeing Sanjo for a hot second. Like he probably felt like he was being replaced at that moment. Like, oh, no wonder Josh let me go because he still has Sanjo. And so luckily, once he asked Zopa what happened with Sanjo, he felt a little bit better. because he knew that he was going to come down with him, supposedly. But there's a lot of emotions in one small section, one small instance of Peake's life. So many emotions. He was literally taken on a roller coaster of all these thoughts and anger and like relief that I feel so bad for him. I can only imagine being this 14-year-old boy in this situation and getting played by everyone. First getting humiliated, then being played. It's hard. All right, go ahead and fill out your Google Forms.